Hey there, I'm Daniel Dale, a CNN fact-check reporter. I fact-check every single thing President Donald Trump says, and this week I want to take a look at three signature patterns of the president's dishonesty. Number one is what I think of as his unbudgeability. Number two, something called Trumpflation. And three, the twist and shout. Let's look at the first trait, unbudgeability. It is really hard for anyone to get President Trump to budge from a false claim after he's made it. Let's take a look at something he said on Monday.
If somebody wants to be tested right now, they'll be able to be tested.
Trump came up at a press conference and said again, as he did in March, that anyone who wants a coronavirus test can get one. Now, that wasn't true when he said it in early March. It wasn't true on Monday. Many states still had criteria about who can get a test. There were still shortages of materials in many areas limiting who could get a test. It wasn't true. So another administration official came up to the podium and tried to help the president out.
Right now in America, anybody who needs a test can get a test in America with the numbers we have. If you are symptomatic with a respiratory illness, that is an indication for a test, and you can get a test. If you need to be contact traced, you can get a test. And we are starting to have asymptomatic surveillance, which is very important.
Now, even that version is not 100% true, but it was much more accurate. So what does Trump do? Instead of taking this lifeline, he came back and reverted to his original wording.
If people want to get tested, they get tested. But for the most part, they shouldn't want to get tested. There's no reason.
Again, this is a pretty unbudgeable man. Now, I personally made up a word for the phenomenon I'm going to talk about next. It's Trumpflation. It's a fake word, but I think this president has earned it. We know he exaggerates, but something I noticed fact-checking him is that he exaggerates even his previous exaggerations. Already false numbers get wronger and wronger and wronger over time.
We've done, as of 2 days ago, more testing than the entire world together. You add every country together, we've done substantially more testing than the entire world together.
So that's not true. The U.S. hasn't done more than the rest of the world combined. But then the president not only doubled down on the original claim, but literally doubled the claim.
These are other countries that have not done anywhere near what we're doing. We're double. If you add them up and double them, we've done more tests.
Now it's more than the rest of the world combined and doubled. Much, much falser. The third Trump pattern of dishonesty I want to highlight is something I think of as the twist and shout. That's where the president takes a kernel of truth, twists it beyond recognition, and then vocally, repeatedly uses his big megaphone to promote the inaccurate version. Listen to something he said this week about voter fraud.
Where Judicial Watch settled a case where they agreed that 1 million votes were fraudulent. 1 million votes in one area were fraudulent, and they could have done a lot more, but it was so ridiculous, there was no reason to go any further.
The kernel of truth here is that there is a legal settlement, but it does not contain an admission that 1 million people voted illegally or that anyone voted illegally. In fact, it's not about voter fraud at all. This is a legal settlement about inactive voter registrations, people who may have died or moved away. It does not contain an admission of widespread voter fraud. Now, was the president confused about the settlement, or was he deliberate? I can't be sure, but he's been saying the same thing for 11 months, even though this has been fact-checked repeatedly by myself and others.